Good afternoon. Today I'm going to discuss the life cycle of a tree. Usually consists of several stages, from germination of the seed to the maturity, and eventually it'll die. And then, just like we taught today in our lab, we can use the remains of trees and other plants as compost, and eventually it'll give back to the earth and turns into dirt, which you could use as soil to plant another tree or other plants, and eventually the cycle just keeps on going. So first I'll talk about seed germination, which is what the life cycle of the tree begins with. Seeds are typically dispersed by various means like wind, water. Animals or birds might pick them up and kind of displace them around. When conditions are suitable, the seed germinates and then it sends out a root system, and kind of like a shoot, just right straight to the ground. And these roots is what's going to be like the basis, like the foundation of this tree. After the germination, the seedling comes from the soil, and usually the tree is going to be very vulnerable to environmental factors such as drought, pests, storms, whatnot, competition from other plants actually, which is kind of interesting to think about. We don't always think about plants. We all know that they're living things, but we don't always think of like them competing for life, as we would, as we know it. Also, maturity is a big deal with the life cycle of a tree. After several years or decades, the tree reaches maturity, and then at this stage, the tree is fully developed, capable of producing flowers, and also, like once it's after a certain amount of time, it'll be able to reproduce and contribute to the next generation of trees as well. And then this reproduction cycle consists of its fruit of the tree, whether it be cones or whatnot. We might know some as gumballs that'll be dispersed throughout, and they will be contributed to the composting system that we know of and that we have discussed as a class. So more about the reproduction process is that these trees produce flowers or cones, like I said, flowers that bloom that we see all over campus, or cones such as like the gumballs I mentioned before, or pine cones. Magnolia trees have a cone that's kind of, it looks like a flower that hasn't bloomed yet, but it never blooms. It's just a cone, and you see those all over the place as well, especially on campus. There's a ton of magnolia trees. These flowers, after they have bloomed, are pollinated by insects, birds, wind, like I said before. Animals can carry them around as well, just like we mentioned beforehand. And then eventually you get to the death of the tree. The tree dies either from old age or disease and other environmental factors that we have previously mentioned. After the death, the tree begins to decay, returning nutrients to the soil, like I mentioned before, like this composting process, and it provides a habitat for various organisms. For example, there's a tree behind the village on Wofford's campus that is dead. It has, I'm sure maintenance crew has probably gone and cut. It looks like it has been cut on the branches have been cut on the top. So it's a dead tree, but there's various vines and weeds that are growing on it, and there are birds that live within it. So no matter if the tree's dead, as long as it hasn't, whether it's still standing or whether it's on the ground and decaying into the ground, there's going to be a means for a tree, for a plant, whether it's alive or whether it's not. Thank you so much, and have a great rest of your day, afternoon, night, whatever time it is that you're watching this.